Welcome to the Challenge Chronicles. I'm Devin Jordan. I'm with Trace Armstrong, Rob McIntyre, and special guest Logan Hedrich. All right. We're here to talk about the trailer for Challenge All Stars, which released. We've gotten a couple within the last week, right? Because I think Rob just sent us. We're recording this on a Sunday. Rob just sent us out a new one that was on Reddit, and then when did the initial one drop?
Well, like the helmet one, what was that? That was basically like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Then I want to say
they've been releasing them pretty quick. Then,
yeah,
the turnaround has been pretty insane. I think they only stopped filming like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and then it's going to be dropping April 1st. That's pretty wild.
They have to be still like editing this in real time, like even while the season is going, don't you think?
Well, there's only 9 episodes, right?
It was filmed over 2 weeks, and I believe 9. Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, I think they could be done with it now. I mean, they turn these things around super quick all the time. What was like Double Agents? It was like 2 weeks or 3 weeks after it was done filming, and it's a 19 episode season apparently, and they turned it around. So
it's crazy.
They know what they're doing, I guess.
Especially, well, they've already started to cast for 37 too, right?
Yeah.
Availability calls have definitely gone out.
Yeah. I will be very interested to see how all that shapes out because, I mean, it seems like Darrell has had this resurgence. You know, he was on Double Agents. He's on this All-Star show coming up, and apparently he's not. No one is a lock until the cast leaves, but he is very strong possibility he will be on 37.
Wonder what happened.
He's one of the few people that they already have him as a potential cast member, which is kind of odd, right?
And you're not even a lock until you leave. You got to be a lock showing up with TJ because there's like a handful of alternates for All Stars, wasn't there?
Well, it was also Jenny apparently got flown to location last season and they didn't use her.
That's very surprising.
Which is insane.
I heard that she tested positive for COVID, which is why she was not on Double Agents. I don't know that for sure, so don't want to get in trouble. But she got to location and through the testing, she was pulled out from what I heard.
I think with this time frame, you have to be aware of like anything could happen with any of these people. I mean, with the COVID plus just like, family issues back home. We never know why somebody's not on the show. But moving on to this cast now. So it looks like we got 22 people. It's looking like it's just going to be an individual winner, which I thought was odd.
For this season?
Well, because yeah.
It is not. It is no longer a spoiler. They say it in the trailer. There will be one winner.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we think that there was going to be 20 people? Didn't you say that before we got on, Logan?
No, 22.
I believe originally they only planned on having 20, and then last minute bumped one guy and one girl onto the main cast.
Because the thing with 22
people, you have them there.
Yeah, but the thing with 22 people, you have all less options for what you can do as a format because you really can't do a 2-team format with 22 unless if it's a battle of the sexes or I guess you could have 6 men and 5 women on one team and then 6 men and 5 women on the other team. But typically you want them balanced.
They may have already known at that point that they wanted to do individual though. So at that point, it doesn't really matter for them. It just kind of comes down to it. It's clunky for if you want to do a pairs for the first challenge, you can't really do that. But besides that, it doesn't matter, don't you think? Or no?
I mean, well, I think it does. For me personally, maybe it's just my desire for uniformity. I like having it divisible by 4. But I think, if it's just individual winner, though.
Yeah, but it's only... Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, if it's just individual winner, though, too, it seems like these missions are pretty physical. Like, I think a lot of us were anticipating this was kind of going to be Gauntlet Redux. And, like, they're doing some pretty intense stuff. Like, I don't know how...
That was my initial reaction from the trailers, is that it looks really modern, right? It doesn't... I was surprised by those 2 things. The people on the show didn't look as old as I thought that they would look, 1. And then 2, it looks like a regular season of the show.
I mean, I think that's the vibe they're going for. So I think there's a little disconnect in the fandom of like what the original, quote unquote, original Mark Long We Want OG's concept was and what this final product is going to be as Challenge All Stars. So like, I think, what you're alluding to is like, there's probably a handful of people that the fans really, really want to see, but for a litany of reasons, be it not getting a high enough appearance fee. They're just done with reality TV. They just don't want to jump back into that realm, or whatever it may be, to what All Stars ends up being. People are like, oh, Jemmy's not an OG, John A's not an OG. It's like, I think between Mark's original message and this final product, there's like a little bit lost in translation to the hardcore fans, because you can't create a show, you can't create a challenge season with all 50-year-old people. That's just not in any way like a realistic expectation.
Absolutely.
Well,
And I think
something that we had talked about was that there are, we speculated that they may have had a harder time casting for this than they thought they would have, right? That when Mark Long initially put feelers out, everyone was like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. You know what I mean? In theory, that could really work out. But then when push came to shove, I think they were able to find a lot less people to come on board.
Wait, can I jump in here? Because I actually wrote down some of the names that Mark Long was originally tweeting about to get people hyped for We Want OGs. Tell me if any of these names are on Challenge All-Stars. Landon, Coral, Evelyn, Timmy, Jamie Chung, Eric Neese. These were screenshotted text messages that he posted on his Twitter being like, look, here's who we're going to get for We Want OGs. It's like, dude, you might have jumped the gun a little early. Like, let's actually get these people's name signed on the contract before you're doing this promotional stuff with specific cast members.
I feel like Jamie Chung's appearance was basically the budget they had for the show.
Yeah, and instead we have John A. and Hisela on the cast.
Which I'm cool
okay
with.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
Like
I'm not.
I just think it's like there's so many people who run through the main show who like live this season. It doesn't even feel like a storyline, basically. Like there's going to be some people who are just kind of there to fill out the cast. And I also give their casting department credence in that I have a hard time seeing them put a significant number of cast members on the show that wouldn't make for good TV. Like I think they're going to put people on the show because they have some story to tell or some role to play in it. I don't think they're going to just give us a bunch of cardboard box filler people.
To that point,
what would be an example of that?
Anissa. You know, and I mean this seriously.
Beth,
we've talked about this many times, is that a lot of these people haven't been on reality TV in a while. So they're going to be rusty from the standpoint of how to do a confessional and explain a challenge and all that stuff. Whereas you have people like Anissa who, like, say what you will about her gameplay and how she performs, but she is excellent at confessionals and she's excellent at breaking down the daily stuff of what's going on. So you will go ahead and cast some of these people that are still connected to the show because somebody has to help drive the narrative of what's happening.
Yeah, to that point, one thing that really stuck out with me when we interviewed Jemmy, video interview available exclusively at patreon.com/HedrickFiles. She said, because we were asking her like, man, we love Teresa. Like she's not getting as much airtime on Double Agents as we hoped she would. She's like, well, listen, guys, I adore Anissa. She's an incredible competitor. Like love what she brings to the show, but she is not good in confessionals. Like it's very difficult and very rare to find someone that hits all the marks. You know, to find a Johnny Bananas, a Mark Long, these guys that are great in confessional, create drama in the house, and are really good competitors. Those are like the unicorns that they're always seeking out. But some people are just like vastly lacking in one area, but are still incredibly valuable to the show in another aspect. Like, name me one interesting confessional or one-liner or anything that Jenny ever said in her 2 seasons. I couldn't tell you a single memorable social element she ever did on her 2 seasons. But I think she was very important to be there for Total Madness to like up the level of competition and to, you know, I am sort of anti the challenge being America's 5th major sport, but she like pushes the show in that direction for sure.
She had a lot of drama too, right? She was in that whole dynamic between Rogan.
With D, true, and it did get edited out.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
I think the second half of Total Madness is just a write-off. Like, I just don't think we can take anything away about almost anything.
That's also fair.
I do think, I almost think that's worse for them, though, if she's that good of a competitor, because you know she's probably going to be around for a while, and you're going to have this person who's a major part of the competitive aspect of the show that's not contributing in anything else.
Yeah, going to have to weave her into the narrative somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people say it about Survivor a lot, but when it comes to the challenge, I think it's kind of true too that good challenge play is often boring, right? Like some of the best challenge competitors, like if you're playing it like the way that you should, often isn't super flashy in your face.
Like CT World of
And
Worlds
that's one
2,
of the
basically, where he wins the season, and it's like, wait, CT's on the show? What was that?
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing you keep in mind too of like guys like Landon. Like first of all, Landon couldn't get off work in time for this one from what I heard. So it's not that he wasn't willing, it's just it didn't work out work-wise for him to do this show. He was never a great confession person, like ever. Like he had a couple moments here or there where he would provide insight of what he was thinking, but he was never really involved in a lot of the politics, or if he was so in the background of it that the Evans of the world and the Kennys and the Wesses, they're the ones that are up front because they're just in your face with what's going on politically. So like Landon, as great of a competitor as he was, and it was awesome to see him compete in challenges. I mean, he contributed next to nothing when it came to help telling the story of what was happening.
Is Landon's most memorable reality TV moment when he was wasted on his Real World season and like flashing a knife to everyone?
That
Do you guys
might
remember
be
that?
it. I
It's
do remember
that,
Not at
like
that.
all.
Wrestling
No.
Derek, maybe? That's probably up there.
Yeah,
too.
wrestling Derek on Inferno 2
True,
and he
true.
got head shaved. Like that was also
Yeah.
like his similar moment on Inferno 2.
Yeah, the other thing
So they're
too
gonna.
is I feel like they have to kind of stray from what Mark Long wanted because he's on the cast. Like he can't be that involved in the production process, right? If he's
So
actually on the
what do
cast.
you think the biggest difference is between what they ended up coming up with and what his idea was initially? So do you really think it's just a difference in the people that are on the cast, or do you think there's some other fundamental difference about
No,
where the
I
two
think there's a
diverge?
huge difference
I think there's a
here.
lot.
I think there's a huge difference. The way that Mark was pitching it is all OGs, like go way back in the Wayback Machine in terms of OGs. And then he even said maybe a few current cast members because you need recognizable faces like Bananas or Wes or CT or whomever. But he was really proposing doing something along the lines of Inferno 2 type challenges. Go back to when the challenge was fun and go back to, this kind of stuff. Not that challenge isn't fun now, in my opinion, but it's way more serious because there's way more money on the line. So people really get after it now. Whereas back then, it was kind of a paid free vacation on TV. Come have some fun, hang out with your friends, free alcohol, go wander around Mexico on your day off. There was a lot of freedom
Do a
to
few
it.
carnival games.
Exactly. And then you
Something.
go. And that was the way he pitched it. Well, it has very much shifted to we have a kind of we don't really know the full format yet. I'm assuming it's probably a duel-ish type format because it's going to be single. There's a single winner. So there's going to be some kind of we're not looking at pairs here. We're not probably looking at a full team challenge either. So it's really looking like a normal season of the challenge. It just happens to have some of the old favorites on it.
It does actually look like there's an interesting balance between old and new school. So in terms of the format, I think it looks like there are some team challenges. So there's like some really extreme ones where they're like walking these planks or whatever, jumping from thing to thing on top of that semi truck. But then also, and this is the only request I had for Challenge All Stars, is just give me these people in tiny bathing suits melting a block of ice. And it looks like we're going to get it. I could not be more excited when I saw them rubbing John A across a block of ice. That is gold.
That's what I was going to say too. So they may be giving us, we don't really know what percentage of the challenges are janky carnival games, right? Because they could just be giving us these more high production ones as trailer shots, right? We know that they love to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be that they're just giving all of that to us now. So they're gonna air these on Thursdays. Is that the plan? Like, are they going to release it at a specific
That's
time?
something I've really been trying to dig into because I've talking from people at work, like they were curious if we were going to be able to do a fantasy game for this season, and I just don't know what the release schedule is going to be. I would assume
I have
because
heard that they are releasing one a week.
One a week. That's what I would assume.
Go ahead, sorry.
According to Scott Yeager, I think he tweeted out Thursdays at 3 a.m. is when they're going to drop. So it's similar to like how they've been dropping The Mandalorian on Disney Plus at kind of like an ungodly hour. If you want to stay up till the end of the night, you can watch it, or you can just watch it anytime Thursday.
Yeah, because they've been doing the same thing with the Real World Homecoming show. They drop in an episode a week, and when you wake up on whenever morning it is, it's there. So it'll be the same thing for this show.
Are you guys caught up on that? Did you watch the most recent episode?
I have not
gotten around
watched
to
the most
watching it
recent
yet.
one yet.
All I have to say is, Becky, you ignorant fucking idiot. She's fucking up, man. She's the worst. She's shown zero growth in 30 years.
I heard
not-
I saw some
episodes
tweets
of-
about that. That was the only thing I'd seen from him so far.
Third
episodes are they
episode
doing of
dropped. I think only 6.
They're only doing 6.
Yeah, they only
Okay.
filmed for like 6 or 7 days, so I can't imagine there's much
Really?
more content.
Oh wow.
How long did the show used to be, though? It didn't used to be that long.
Oh, it
right?
was like 6 months, and it was like 20, 30-minute episodes was like the first seasons.
But I believe there's only 9 episodes of the original. I'm gonna go check it on Paramount.
Yeah,
Plus
please
real
check
quick.
that. I do know that when they got into like Los Angeles the next year, the season 2 with Puck, it was like 20
It was 21
episodes, and he
episodes.
was only on like the first half.
Is
Or
We're
he
San
doing-
Francisco, whichever one.
Okay, original Real World. It looks like it's 10 episodes.
Mhm.
Oh no, 13. 13. That was
13,
all.
okay.
Okay,
Well, they're
but
shorter
I do
though,
have
right?
yeah, they're only 22 minutes. I do have a fun fact about that Puck season of the Real World. And so if either of you three plan on coming to our trivia tonight, just please act like I didn't actually give you this answer. But one of the first time you ever see Mark Long on MTV,
Mhm.
he is brought into that Real World house as a potential replacement for Puck. I had no idea
Mhm.
that was his first appearance. I assumed
Really?
it was just on Road Rules.
Yeah.
Well, what happened
That's
is
pretty
he,
wild.
he was cast
MTV
for
had their
that.
eye on him for that long.
And there's actually a pilot of Road Rules that was only 1 episode, and the only 2 people that made it out of that pilot episode were Mark and Kit. And they recast everybody else before they actually went and
Interesting.
filmed the first season of Road Rules. So there was a lot of they had their eye on Mark for a long time, and they realized he would be better at Road Rules. So they kind of manipulated it so that he was not going to be that roommate on that show. So yeah.
Well, they
And
know
imagine
you're
realized
being
doing
he
those
could be
other
the
the
leading
5
star.
castmates of just no.
Yeah. The other thing too, Mark Long was initially proposing there wouldn't be people eliminated from the show. Like it was really more of almost
Really?
like a If you go back and look through some of the older stuff, he was thinking that they might even not eliminate people, which I just do not
Yeah,
think
he
will
had
fly.
pitched it was
Yeah, would
he
not
was
fly with
pitching it to
producers
be
now.
like a Big Brother type thing where, people stick around a lot.
Can you imagine like 24 people and not eliminating anybody? Like we would just have them sitting around for.
No, I feel like it removes so much drama. Like even though they're there for a reunion for the Challenge All-Stars, like you still have to have drama, and you still have to have. It can't all just be happy-go-lucky and everybody's happy drinking and doing a challenge. Like you've got to have something going on here.
It's just the real world at that point. Like
Pretty much.
and then someone like
It's
may win
quadruple
money.
the people.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, though, if we don't get Tech and Ruthie jumping into the pool naked the first 5 minutes of the first episode, what are we doing here? What is the point of
I
all
don't
this,
know.
Mark? That has to be in their contract.
Well,
hope
yeah,
so.
that and Nehemiah and Beth hooking back up again, right? Those are the 2 things we're really looking out for.
I don't know. It
Well,
looked
from
like
the
Nehemiah
trailer, we
was
saw Nehemiah and Jimmy hanging out. So.
cuddling up with someone
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
No, can you imagine that love triangle? How that's going to play out?
Well, Beth's
Beth
married.
is like
We know Beth's
50
gonna
and
lie
has
that up,
kids.
too.
Come on. Come
Yeah.
on.
It's a different time.
Is she married?
She
think
definitely
so.
has kids that are like teenagers.
Yeah, that's just.
I don't
that's a
know
wild one.
specifically. I would assume maybe not, but
Is that what Challenge
Yeah.
All Stars 2 is going to be? It's going to be like that season of Amazing Grace where they had like parents with their 3 kids who were showing up doing the race.
Oh,
that is
man.
the worst. That is the
Like
worst season of that
Bloodlines,
show.
but you can only bring
bad.
your kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
That's a
so
twist.
bad.
Who are you guys most excited to see? Like of the long layoffs, and like maybe the one and done people. Who are you most excited to see? Because I think there's a very universal answer amongst the Twitter diehards, and that's got to be
Wow.
Kendall. People adore Kendall.
I'd probably say
I
Mark
think
Long.
mine.
Mark Long.
I would
or-
say Beth.
Yeah, I'd say Mark Long.
I
Beth.
think Beth is probably
yeah.
like the chalk. I would say Beth is like the chalk amongst like the older demographic. I feel like that's the chalk answer is Beth. I really do like Cyrus, so I just think he'll be a lot of fun when he comes on.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And Rob, as the youngest one here, you clearly represent the older demographic.
Clearly, yes.
He's up here with the old curmudgeon, the guy, the 37-year-old up here. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
In between-
Beth just brings, no matter, whenever Beth is on the show, you know Beth is on the show. Like there is no mystery who is involved in stuff. And so she just breeds conflict. And it makes the show that much more entertaining when she's a part of it. So I feel like her being there, and I also feel like Trishelle being there really brings home that the potential for conflict, because Trishelle was always a lightning rod too, not to the extent Beth was, but people either really loved Trishelle or they really didn't like Trishelle at all. So to me, those two are huge gets for this cast.
Because what are the seasons Trishelle is on? She's on the first Gauntlet, and then what's the next season that she's on after that?
Battle of the Seasons and Rivals 2 were her last ones, right? And
Yeah.
her lasting image is an elbow from Anissa to the face as she walks out of the house, basically.
So if she's, I don't remember exactly what happened with her on Battle of the Seasons, but if she was in a decent amount of drama on Battle of the Seasons, she has drama pretty much surrounding her every season then, because there was a decent amount that happened with her in the first Gauntlet.
Remember, because she was dating the Miz that season, and so there was a lot of controversy about Miz wanting to keep her on the team when Coral and a bunch of other people were like, she's terrible, let's send her in.
Is that the season where she tells the story that she was like biking down a mountain and flipped over and like split her helmet in half, and she like still, she had black eyes. Two black eyes and blood streaming out her nose. Is that same season?
That's it. That's the season.
Very injury prone.
That's wild.
So the person that everyone is least excited to see is pretty much Uniform, right? I don't think is there any debate
I don't think we
that?
need to mention.
I don't think we
think we need to mention. Who are we talking about? Is it John A?
No, I think it's Big Easy.
I was going to say Big Easy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's so low on my radar that it doesn't even... There's no
see, exactly. Yeah,
the one person I'm okay with John A.
I
think she's fine. I don't. Yeah,
I think she's good TV. She's literally been on reality TV since she's 12. So that says something.
She knows how this goes. The one person that I'm cautious about right now is Alton, because if we get Alton of Battle of the Seasons, if we get an older version of Alton from Gauntlet 2, we're in for something cool. But I have a feeling we're going to get more... I don't know it's going to be as bad as Battle of the Seasons, because his demeanor from that season was just the negativity of that house. That house might be the most negative challenge house in history. Like, just awful, awful negativity on that season. But I just... I have a sore taste in my mouth because people... I feel like he's overrated, and I've made this argument before. He had one great season, and that's it. Okay, everything else, it's like, well, Inferno 3, he wasn't that impressive. He definitely wasn't impressive in Battle of the Season, so what are we talking about here?
I'm actually with you. I think he's fairly overrated. I think he's a really good competitor, but completely lacking in social and political game. And another piece of trivia we're going to have for tonight, do you guys remember the last time we saw Alton, who eliminated him?
Well, it was on Universal Studios Challenge, right?
Well, no, okay. No, I'm talking.
Right, it was Battle of the Seasons. Was it Rob or Derek?
It was Rob and Marie, right?
St. Thomas.
Rob and Marie. Marie Rhoda is the one who has most recently eliminated all-time great Alton Williams.
He threw it. So
put a plaque. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
He threw it.
But it's still pretty.
That's
wild
why Nani and Trishelle were arguing, is because Dustin said Trishelle should be going in, and they all knew Alton was going to throw it, so whoever went in was going home.
Listen, I adore Marie. It's not a slight to Marie, but probably not the same level of competitor.
What? I am one of those people. I don't care if they threw it. I don't care, whatever. A win is a win is a win. A win is a win is a win. So if you can claim you beat Alton, go for it. I mean, just put it up there. I'm fine with it.
Hey, Marie has wins over Alton and Cara Maria.
What did she beat?
Forget about that.
She beat Cara in the wrestling season.
Yeah, not an elimination, but in a challenge.
Yeah, that's true. I think he'll be fine. I just think, unless if Zach shows up as a mercenary or something, I think he'll be fine. I just think that was just the demeanor of the house, and this is going to be a cast he's so much more familiar with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
It's going to be interesting. For me, the most interesting part is actually just once we start getting the votes and people getting voted in, how the dynamics play out from that. Like, so everybody's still going to be rosy, or are people going to feel a little backstabbed because there's going to be a lot of overlapping alliances here that just aren't going to be able to last through the whole thing.
I have a quick question for you guys. Who is the biggest anti-GOAT in challenge history? Because one of them is on this cast. Of course, the one that I forget which one of you guys is always defending him, but Danny Jameson, obviously the worst challenger in the history of the show. But
I don't think
Ace,
any of us
I defend him
that
a
guy.
little bit. I defend him a little
think-
bit because I find him
I
I think Ace
entertaining.
is in that same
Why?
category.
What is the redeeming quality with Danny on the challenge?
He's so clueless, it's
I don't think we've
hilarious.
ever had this
Like he's
conversation.
just so clueless, it's so
Oh,
hilarious.
he's entertaining
The fact that
for sure.
I remember, what was it, Inferno 3, when they were debating, he's like, yeah, I'll go in there with Alton. I can beat Alton. And everybody just kind of looks at him like, yeah, okay.
Well,
Go
the
back
better
to-
one is when he's talking about Fresh Meat 2. He's talking to Wes and Evelyn, and it's like, yeah, I don't think if Landon's the fourth team in a final, I think we'll be fine. I can take Landon in a final. So,
And Wes and
All right,
everyone look at him like he just lost his mind.
one
So
of the most
to me,
delusional
to
challengers
say
ever.
like
Has
he's
to
the worst challenger of all time, you have to encompass the entertainment factor with his performance. Like if you just want to go strictly by performance, yes, he is probably one of the worst men to ever
But like,
do the show. But in terms
but
of
if you're
his
boring-
entertainment value, it's high for me.
but if you're boring and bad, you're not on the show for more than a season or two.
Yeah,
See,
that's
Trace,
bad.
I do agree with that, but I think you're also missing another piece of the pie, and that's expectations. Like both
That's
he
okay.
and the audience expected him to kind of be a beast going into his challenge career, and like
He was
never
not.
lived up to any of it whatsoever.
Did he?
Okay, so I bring
he
that
never
up to
won
say
anything.
I don't think he won an elimination even.
No, he lost
But
every
anyways,
single thing he ever
As
did.
an individual.
I bring that up to say Ace. Like, how do we feel about Ace coming back?
I'm
I think
cool
he's
with it.
fun. I don't
I'm
think
glad.
he's very good.
Yeah,
Somebody has to go home first after Big Easy.
I think we're all
you
for
know?
Ace.
Just be.
I
I
he
love
brings, like,
Ace,
a certain
okay?
level of entertainment.
I legit love watching Ace
I
on my
think-
television. But part of the tradition
I don't
is
think
he
anyone can
does
say that he's
something dumb and goes
not
home.
fun.
Yeah.
It is a tried and true tradition. I look forward to it, actually.
I mean, my number one hope is the first mission is a valet parking mission, and then Ace and Cyrus end up on opposite teams, and we can have a showdown to see who's actually knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Hey, you know what? This is a point of conversation. To me, the most surprising thing about this season is that it was actually filmed in Argentina. That shocked me, just because I know the level of steps it took for them to film Double Agents in Iceland. The fact that they were able to do this season in South America with all the restrictions and quarantines and stuff, the fact that they pulled that off, to me, is a big tip of the cap to all those people that were involved in that, because that's a big deal.
True. Yeah, they were initially quarantining in Texas, so I think a lot of people definitely thought that that's where it was going to film.
I was
And
one
then
of
all
them.
of a sudden, the rumors are coming out that's like, oh, actually, what is it, 25, 26 with all the alternates are like down in Argentina. So that was a big surprise. So
Mhm.
that's why I'm like, okay, first of all, I have to say, every platform I'm going on here, I have to be like, I'm owning it. I did not think this show was going to fucking happen. I laughed at it. I pointed at it and said,
Same.
Mark, this is not going to happen.
Only one.
And so I have to give a major tip of the cap to everyone involved that this is actually fucking happening in 8 days, 10 days, whatever it is. So that is impressive. And the fact that they are doing this like hybrid style season of old school people, mostly with some new school, and then like an old school vibe, but with still the budget, at least, if nothing else, of a new school season. I think it's really fucking cool.
Mm-hmm.
And people are far more hyped for this online than anything happening.
Oh
in
yeah,
Double
that was
Agents.
all my Twitter feed was. Instead of talking about like the actual show, like you wouldn't even thought that happened this week. It was just
Yeah.
show.
I think that this has a lot going for it. Number one, it's the highest profile show with some oomph behind it on Paramount Plus so far. And the rebrand of CBS All Access, I think it was called, I had it for a while, of course, but it just didn't have that much of an appeal to the mod, like just the average everyday person. And now that they've really rebranded it and gotten away, because when people think CBS, they think CSI. Like, no offense to people who love CSI. I love Tom Selleck and his mustache on Blue Bloods. Don't get me wrong. But I think CBS, I think 45 and up. I hear Paramount Plus, I hear a giant library. So the fact that this is the show that is their first thing coming out of the gate shows you how much faith they have in this product. And the fact that they've gone over 2 million views on a trailer tells you that there's buzz behind it. So I think from the way they're talking, a second season has already been green lit. So we're probably getting more of these.
Really?
That was gonna be my next question. I was gonna say, like, what do you think the odds are that they do another one of these?
I think high. I think the names I mentioned, Landon, Coral, I don't think that caliber of challenger is coming back, but I think this is going to spark something inside a lot of these people that like were fringe or were thinking about it and said no initially, and are like, oh, actually it's only 2 weeks and you get to travel and there's a massive prize on the line. That's like very appealing to a lot of people who haven't been on reality TV in 10 plus years.
I think it just makes it easier for them to produce more challenge content, right? Because it's in a shorter amount of time. I don't know, maybe it makes it more difficult, but I think that's just what they're trying to do, is just produce more content around the show that they can, just because it's at this point a desirable product.
They said Johnny now is more interested in this All-Stars season than they would be going back on the regular show. I just saw a rumor that was circling around, but probably because one, it's shorter production time. It's also probably an easier win for him than going back on.
Well, he's got real work now. I mean, say what you will about Johnny Bananas, I would not be shocked if the Total Madness win was his last official challenge, because he's doing Prime Sports every week. So he's on Prime Video every week doing live sports stuff. He's got the NBC
Is First Look still
show.
A thing?
Yeah, the new episodes are still dropping of that, and I saw him traveling for that again recently. Right. He's also doing the NBC sleepover thing where he's doing interviews with celebrities. I mean, he was on The Worst Cooks in America. Like, he's kind of spun himself into having a full career outside the challenge. So saying to him, okay, you're going to go film another season and it's going to be 12 weeks. Like, he'll either be one of those guys that shows up and purposely tries to go home soon to keep his brand alive, or it's easier for him to go do the Challenge All-Stars and he can go that for 2 weeks and then he can get back to work. I mean, I don't think that's a realm that to be forgotten about.
Is this going to like, is this just like season 36.5 at this point then? What are we looking at this in terms of historical record?
This is a spinoff.
That's a good question.
It's completely separate.
So you don't consider whoever wins this, you don't consider them a true challenge champion?
I consider them a champion of the spinoff. It's like I don't count Champs versus Stars.
Okay, I see. I think this is easily a large step above Champs vs. Stars.
Agreed.
I agree with you.
But I think it's still a step below versus the regular show. Like, it's definitely a rung above kind of whatever they did in Champs vs. Stars or the spring break stuff. I think it's definitely different.
I think...
Okay, I swear this is going to be my last time I reference trivia, but this is just like too perfect of a question. So this is like one of our final questions for later tonight. Okay, it's a long one, so stick with me. Ace, Anissa, Arissa, Beth, Jemmy, Eric, Johnny, Latarian, Gisela, Kellyanne, Tech, Ruthie, Trishelle. What do they all have in common?
Real worlders? No. I haven't won an elimination.
That actually might also be true. But that's not the answer
except for Big Easy. Except for Big Easy, they're all only on Real World or Road Rules.
Okay,
we don't have any fresh meat other than Big Easy.
I'm glad we're workshopping this right now because I know somebody's going to call me out for that. No, the answer is that none of them are challenge champions.
Okay.
Now, can you name of that group who has never even participated in a final? I was shocked by a couple names on this.
Well, Ace has.
Name the people again.
Ace, Anissa, Arissa, Beth. Beth never been on a final. That shocked me. Jemmy,
I don't think that shocked me at all.
No,
she's never even sniffed it. She's like, how many times
one episode away on the duel.
That's right. That's the one time that she
made it
past the first. It's the first time that she made it past like the first half of the season, though, right? I feel like every
Gauntlet
other
2,
season, it's like
Gauntlet 2, she gets decently far. And she just refuses to participate in the elimination against Anissa.
Right.
She
So the
makes
answer is Beth, John A, Laterian, Hisela, and Tech. Never even been to a final.
So she makes it one episode from the final in the duel. I don't remember her.
No, she doesn't, Trace. That's,
she lost
that's
to
Anissa.
Svetlana when she broke the carabiner
That's
like
Anissa.
CT did.
That's Yeah,
Or
I know,
Anissa,
but that was
sorry.
like midway through. Anissa is the one who gets.
Well,
towards the end.
she loses that way. She's out in episode 8, so she loses to Svetlana, but then it lasts a lot longer. It's Anissa
Okay,
versus
then I was
Svetlana
wrong. It's
in
not the last
before
one
the
then.
final.
I knew she got far. Okay.
Well, she
That
gets
might
the
be the
far
first
from
she's about
Gauntlet
half-
2, probably.
She's about
Probably-
halfway in the duel, and then in what did we say?
Gauntlet 3, she
Gauntlet
makes it
2,
halfway
she gets
because
pretty
it's only
far.
like 5. It's only like 4 episodes out of the 9.
Gauntlet 2, she makes it to episode. Where is she? Which team is she on? Oh, she makes it to episode 13.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
gets
she
pretty
makes
far.
it pretty. Yeah, because she's the captain at one point. Remember?
The
and
worst
she's in the
thing for her
driver's
that
seat.
always killed her is she was always on team seasons, and you don't want to run a final with Beth, but you don't want to
True.
see Beth in elimination.
Yeah.
So if she was in more individual ones, she's probably around a little longer.
She's pretty much the same type of competitor that Anissa is, almost, where she's very good.
I think
in
she's more
eliminations.
extreme than Anissa.
Sure, I'd have to think about it, but I think she's on that same spectrum, where she's good at eliminations, but you wouldn't necessarily want her for a final.
Much more liked in the house too as Anissa rather than Beth.
Is
Also
Beth
true.
disliked? That seems like that's like an under the radar thing that's never really been explored.
It depends on who it was. Like she was on seasons with like the Mean Girls, and they definitely did not like Beth. Then
None of them
you
coming
would
back,
have
Lee,
people
right?
like, but then you had people like Wes, Nehemiah, stuff like that were friends with Beth, and even people like Mark Long would say like, I don't like. He and Beth were
Yeah.
friends off the show, so there were definitely people that Beth were friends with. But the longer she stayed on the show, and the more new cast members came along, that disappeared. But then you also had people like Timmy calling her Osama Beth Laden in the first episode of Battle of the Season. So
Jesus.
you just she
And
had
aren't-
her friends, and she had a
Aren't
lot
Beth
of
and
detractors.
Cyrus like best friends?
Yeah, they are. That's
They
I
hang
think she'll
out
actually
all
be
the time
okay.
together.
Yeah, they're really good friends. So I think she'll actually be. I think looking at this cast, it's not like there's Kina around, unfortunately. So I think she'll actually be okay.
Yeah, sad
Man,
times.
what happened to her? That's a name. She is younger than Cara Maria.
Kina?
Just that, yeah. You say Kina or Tina?
Crazy.
Kina.
Kina.
K-I-N-A.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
a K.
Which is just so it's one of those like where you hear like somebody from modern history is the same age as somebody, you know, who's famous in like the 60s. It's hard for you to like wrap your mind around that Kina, who was on the show when she was 19, is younger than someone, you know, who came on the show later but did so many of the seasons that she feels like she's more a part of modern history.
Well, because it's the crazy thing
Rob,
about
this is
Cara
a
and
good one
Johnny
that I
is they
heard.
came on late.
This is a good one that I heard the other day, Rob. So, how many older is Rob Gronkowski than Travis Kelsey?
They're like the same age.
I think Kelsey's a year older, so it's a trick question.
No, Kelsey's not
Crazy,
older than
right?
him. I'm pretty sure Gronk's
Are
older.
you sure? Are
Look
you
at-
sure?
People complained about you looking up too much stuff during our shows, but I think he's
That
older
might
by,
be
like,
correct though, because didn't Kelsey have like a crazy journey to the NFL? Didn't he have to do like 2 or 3 stops in college before he got drafted?
He was in the same draft as like Zach Ertz and Jordan Reed. He was in this crazy stacked tight end draft, and he didn't really like break out until like 2016, which is like first really good year in the league.
Whatever happened to his reality show? Wasn't he doing like a Bachelor?
Oh yeah, he
spin-off
had like
type
a
show?
Baxter spinoff type show.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
like,
yeah, I remember
it was
that
more like
vaguely.
Flavor of Love than anything really. but-
Okay, true. There's actually a point I wanted to loop back to, Trace. You're talking about Paramount Plus and their branding and the shift from CBS All Access to what this like new kind of still undefined brand of Paramount Plus is going to be. But I think it's really, really cool that they're leaning incredibly hard into the reality TV thing. Because, you know, obviously everyone knows Challenge, Amazing Race, Big Brother, that kind of stuff. But then, so I'm looking at their like their library of reality TV. It is like so extensive. You got RuPaul. Okay, say what you will about these like second, third, fourth, fifth tier shows, but you
Flavor
know,
of Love, man. I'm all in.
Yeah, I don't even think that's on here. They don't have all the old VH1 shows, so they're still bringing
It
stuff
will be
in.
eventually, because they're bringing VH1 on board, because we're getting all the behind the musics at some point too.
Oh, that's good info. I like that. But so you've got the like Teen Mom shows, you've got Tough as Nails, you've got Next, you've got Made, Party Down South, Unplugged, Love and Hip Hop, Love Island. So many of this like incredible back catalog of reality TV shows. And then also leaning in and doing the Real World Homecoming and Challenge All Stars. So I think it's really cool because so many of these streaming platforms want to be 4-quadrant platforms where they hit the 4 quadrants of the demographics, and they're like, you know what, we're not going to compete with the prestige of HBO. We're not going to be able to compete with Netflix and their insane catalog of everything. So like, let's just really go all in. Of course, they have Nickelodeon and like the more kid friendly stuff, but I just think it's so fucking cool that we can finally be like, Paramount Plus is our reality TV realm.
Yep. The fact that Road Rules is coming back on this is just, again, it's just showing the strength of some of these brands that are out there. I mean, I'm not surprised about the Challenge All Stars happening. I am beyond shocked that Road Rules is happening. Like, shocked. When I saw that announcement, I about fell on the floor because I loved Road Rules. I mean, I was not a Real World fan. I would watch it, but Road Rules was my jam. And I've seen all of those seasons, but it's been, gosh, probably 15 years since I've been able to see a season other than Northern Trail, because they're just not around. You cannot find them. Oh wait, I take that back. Seasons 1 and 2 were on like MTV Classic a while back, and so I watched the Timmy Beggy season. That was really good. But regardless, yeah, I'm with you.
What would you say is the best Road Rules season? Because I'm definitely not super well versed. I think my strongest Road Rules memory is the fight that Abram gets in with his castmate in that like dance studio.
There's a couple. I wouldn't say that there is one that stands out above them all. I would say that there are weaker seasons. Like, I would say that the Latin America season is just kind of weak, not because of the cast, but just I felt like they devoted 4 episodes to them being flat broke. And so it just wasn't interesting.
Okay.
But
any memorable challengers from that one?
Holly from Holly Shand, I think was her name. Curly hair,
okay.
showed up on Inferno 1, I think. She was good. She was from that one. I can't remember anybody else. Los was on that one, I think. He was good. The Quest was a good one, but that's when the format started changing, was for the Quest, and it started getting a theme like maximum velocity and all that kind of stuff. So,
and extreme, and
yeah. And so like, it was everything pre the Quest is like traditional. Everything after that is like got a spin on it. And then the final season doesn't even really resemble Road Rules, because they vote people out and they've got a pit crew, and it was live. It was kind of strange. So, it's one of those things where I think it's one of those hidden gems for the people that have never seen it. They will go back and watch it and be like, man, that looks like fun. Tell me that I'm in my 20s and I'm going to get paid by MTV to go on a road trip. Like, that's cool. So we have lost our other two.
Yeah, it's just you.
I think me and you now. We're just having a chat.
My other most distinct Road Rules memory is when Derek Kaczynski crashes the bus into that tree that's like hanging over the freeway. That was pretty epic.
That one's pretty good. I would even say the Australia season's really good, because that gave you Piggy and Chadwick. There's just a lot of memorable people from like that semester at sea. Even Campus Crawl was great. Campus Crawl gave us Shane and Darrell and Kendall and
Campus
Rachel.
Crawl is the most legendary cast. Yeah. I think
for the challenge, absolutely. For the challenge,
yeah, 6 of 7 of them went on to do the challenge and be like incredibly memorable characters.
So for people that have never seen Campus Crawl, it's like, man, that's going to be a real treat for some people one day when hopefully they all show up. So anyways.
Okay. Am I back? Because I think my mic and microphone and earbuds died for a while there. We're just
you're still here. We hear you.
Okay, cool.
We still hear you.
Is Devin like got his fax machine running back there or what?
Well, yeah, what happened? And we're just all over the place. We better.
We are. I think this is probably a good place to just kind of we've kind of hit it. So
where'd he go?
I guess I will close this out. Well, here comes Devin. We'll let him close this out. He's back.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, I mean, I think we pretty much covered it. Like, is there any I mean, it's coming out next Thursday. That's the day.
April 1st.
Thursday after next Thursday, right?
It's not an April Fool's joke. It's legitimately coming out April 1st. Let's not.
We don't know that
This
yet.
isn't some
This could all
cruel
just be
trick.
a ruse.
Dude, if that was
not
the
a cruel
ultimate
trick.
con,
Plus.
oh my god. If
It
that
would
was
be the
ultimate
dirtiest
con
trick
and
in
this was
history
just-
if it was possible.
Okay, I have a closing question for you guys. Who do you think is the most obscure cast member that they put on this?
Yes.
Because I think, there's Tech, Hisela did a couple of seasons, but I don't think was ever that memorable on the challenge.
What about Arissa?
Arissa, she's one and done on the challenge,
for
right?
us, right?
But you have to remember, she was on a super
she's
popular
memorable
Real
for
World
us.
season. Yes, she is.
She's really memorable for us, but I don't know how memorable she is for other people.
I think it's probably yes,
You know-
right? Because I think
Logan, you know what
Rodol's
we're
for
talking
one.
about?
Rodol's for one, I think is already like an immediate down looking from Real World in terms of visibility overall. I would say because Real World just more popular show, and then also like he's just on one season of the challenge. So
And he was there for one episode. That's it.
Yeah,
Like he
well,
was
I think it has
one
to
and
be,
done.
yes.
Legitimately one and done on the show.
great name.
I do want
think it has
to
be.
interview him though. He lives here in the Bay Area. I think he lives in Oakland and has like an architecture firm in the Bay Area. So
That'd be
he's
a
a
good-
character
good
I'd be
get.
interested in chatting with.
For sure.
Devin, what were
Yeah,
you
and I
alluding
think
to? I think
for-
we talked about this last time I was here, but I can't exactly
Arissa?
remember. Yeah.
In Sexes 2, it's easily one of the top 10 funniest moments in the show's history, where they do this like mission where they're on a racetrack where they drive a semi around a racetrack and they go through an obstacle course on top of the semi. And the first part is this balance beam that they have to cross. And Arissa takes 2 steps on it, falls off, and just like freaks out. And in and of itself, there's nothing really funny about it, but the way that she does it is just like comical. And when we were going through Sexes 2 and did our recap of Sexes 2, all of us came to, I think that was the last episode of Sexes 2 that we did for the podcast.
Yeah.
We all came to it and just thought it was the funniest thing ever.
Yeah. Because like
She
the
has
way
a
that
super
she
oversized
steps,
helmet
the way
on
that
too,
she falls, and then
best
the
part too is
wailing that
she finishes
ensues.
it.
Oh. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Rob.
the best
Sorry,
part
you're
too
so
is she
quiet. I
finishes
couldn't
it,
hear you.
and then Coral just is like, "You could have done better, Arissa." As Arissa's like plastered out on the floor after having taken like 2 hours to complete the thing everybody else did in 5 minutes.
Oh man. I will say this. I'm glad that a story I don't know the backstory on is less gruesome than when you guys blindsided me with your Australia Survivor take last time I was recording with you guys.
Oh yeah, with the was it Bulgarian Survivor? We always forget.
Oh yeah,
Bulgaria Survivor.
whatever it was. Yeah, that's
Probably the
What was
biggest
it?
train wreck in the history of
Grim.
reality television.
Oh, when the guy dies. Yeah.
And then the host quits because he's like, "Screw this."
Jeez.
So I didn't want to tell you guys this at the time because I didn't want you to get your hopes up. I went on a couple dates with this girl who spoke 5 languages, and one of them happened to be Bulgarian, I think.
And
I got really excited that
Survivor.
I got really excited that we could finally get to the bottom of that, but I haven't really been hanging out with her lately.
You haven't
so.
broached
Oh,
the subject. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So before
we're
we
still probably not going to be able to make it happen.
Yeah. So before we close out, we talk about all kinds of reality TV because we go off topic a lot, it seems like, on our show. I found an article about one of the most obscure reality shows I'd never heard about. So Rob brought my attention to, like, what was it? Kids City, whatever it was, where they like put the kids
Kid
in
Nation.
Kid Nation. Friggin' awesome train wreck. Okay. This one had me even more intrigued. It was a British reality show called Space Cadets, and they tricked 10 smart people into thinking they were going to be space tourists, and they tricked them, said they were in Russia, when in reality they put them up in a plane and blacked out the windows and flew around for 4 hours, landed back in the UK and had them training for space. And then they simulated for the 2 or 3 people that actually won the trip into space. They simulated a shuttle launch and all this stuff only to open the door and it's a studio. I mean, like,
So
I was
good.
just like,
I went to space camp, so I know what that's like.
oh, so if you went to space camp in
Wow.
Huntsville, Alabama, maybe I'm very familiar.
What?
So yeah,
said
like
that-
this just like just crazy things. Like when we talk about reality TV,
Wow,
it's like
interesting.
there's like always these layers to crazier and crazier things have happened on TV than the Challenge All Stars.
So it's like real life Truman Show. Basically?
Somebody greenlit space cadets.
How did you hear about it?
Some random article popped up about like craziest reality shows, and then I Googled about it, and there was like a Daily Mail article about it that was really just insane, and like it was like an oral history of space cadets. I was like, I was reeled
I
in,
didn't know,
man. They
like,
got me
they
good
were
on that
allowed
article.
to
They
do
made their
that.
5 cents off of me.
I didn't realize they were like allowed to do that because they were lying to the contestants, right?
Say that
Yeah.
again, Rob.
I didn't realize they were allowed to do that.
Do what?
I think the lines are very blurred in what you're like, how much information you're legally required to disclose to your contestants. And the studios are always definitely pushing that line. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. They also had Joe Millionaire where, you know, all these women
I was just
were
going to mention that.
competing. I mean, they were competing to marry a millionaire, and it turns out the dude was flat broke, but then they all wound up getting $1 million anyway because their love was true, only then they broke up. They got $1 million. So good for them.
Man, what's the hit rate on those couples ever staying together from like Flavor of Love?
Next
or
to
Gilmore?
0.
Zero.
The
Zero.
Bachelor, the show that brands themselves as that's the only thing that matters. I think only like maybe 50-ish% of the people that win the Bachelorette actually stay together. The Bachelor seasons, never. I don't think there's a single,
Like, no,
maybe
it's
like one or two from early seasons. None of them ever stay together.
With those shows, it's like with Flavor of Love, I feel like they don't even get like a second date. Like they're not even like together at all after the show ends usually.
Well, because the big
Probably
money
not.
comes in season 2. That's when
Yeah, exactly.
you can't
That's
have
when
them lingering with them still.
You got to get that paycheck, man. It's right up there. Because also think
I used
about
to-
there's been some even worse than that. The Swan. Do you remember that one where they were giving people plastic surgery and having a beauty contest as they went
Yeah.
on? I mean, like
That was on network
Yeah.
TV too.
that was nasty shit, man. Like just brutal. I mean, just no thanks. I'm good.
All right.
So,
Devin, we
good
probably gotta dip
times.
out of here right now for you, right?
Yeah, let's do it. Logan, why don't you
Yeah,
plug
I
your
need to get out.
stuff and we'll get out.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Love chatting with you guys. You guys always bring I think you guys serve like an incredibly important purpose in the challenge community, especially when you guys were like going back and pretty much I think the only podcast like systematically going through and reviewing all the old seasons. So love listening to you guys through all of that. We just launched our Patreon a month or two ago. We've been doing a lot of fun stuff over there. We've got live Zoom trivia events. We've got cast member interviews. We're playing Among Us every couple Fridays. So that's really fun. So check that out. Patreon.com/HedrichFiles. You can follow me on Twitter at HedrichFiles. We're always blasting crazy tweets over there. So appreciate you guys having me on. Love chatting with you guys. It's always super fun.
Yeah, definitely. Glad to have you too. What else? Hopefully everyone will be able to watch a video episode of this on YouTube. The one for last week went out, but it went out a little bit after the podcast version went out on YouTube. So there is a video version of last week's episode. It just came out a little bit later. This one, Zencastr is kind of sucking today, so the audio is kind of a little bit delayed going for us back and forth. So I mean, hopefully this one gets up there too.
It should be.
Yeah.
I've heard
it.
some nightmares about
Well,
Zencastr.
It's
Dude,
gotten better.
I feel like that's
Yeah,
more
we-
pretty much about us than anything.
I don't know. Like we've had some good experiences and some really bad experiences. And then I messaged Rob and Trace about this. I actually have a job interview with them tomorrow.
Oh, so
So
let's not
that'll
talk
be
too much shit.
I don't really care, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
They might.
I don't know. It's like in theory it works good because when it works, it really works well. So if you like the audio for our video, that went out last week, Rob's audio was like terrible. Like when it was just us talking like this, but when it actually gets published because it records all the audio files locally, it turns out really good. So I mean, parts of their product are really good. I think they just need to polish it out a little bit. But
There's a lot of delays, I think, but
Yeah, so like even though we're recording, like we see each other at like 480 at best, but when it actually gets published, it's like whatever the resolution of your camera is actually what we see. So like
Nice.
when we're doing this live, it sometimes looks bad. Like Devin's been super out of sync, but when we get to the real thing, like it'll look great. So, you know,
Nice.
it has its pluses and minuses. We had one episode that was a complete disaster where somebody lost connection and it like screwed
yeah, I can see
everything
that.
up. Like I literally spent hours trying to recover that video, and we got the audio somehow, like just pure blind luck. We got the audio out of it.
You never know what adventure you're going to start once you start podcasting, boys.
Nope. That's a good place to stop.
Yeah.
So Devin, take us in.
All right. With that, thanks for listening, everyone. We'll probably be back on Wednesday night, Thursday morning, for episode 15 recap of Double Agents. And with that, talk to you then. See ya. Bye.